Welcome to Bare Bones. With your host, Danny Meehan and Dr. Mason West.
Welcome in, Bears fans, to this episode of Bare Bones. As always, I am Mason West, and today I am joined by fellow co-hosts Danny Meehan and the ghost of Khari Thompson, who's kind of going to be in and out as he figures out his setup. But Danny, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Mason. A little bit tired. I feel like the whole trifecta is like we were kind of talking pre-show. Just work is doing what it does. Gotta just kind of roll with the punches, right? And Penelope, my daughter, is now 6 weeks post-op and doing very, very well. So it's exciting times.
Yeah, I mean, that's fantastic. That's so good to hear. Obviously, it was a little touch and go at moments in there, so it's good to hear that things are chugging along. Mm-hmm. And like you said, whenever you got jobs like we do, and you just got to roll with the punches, you do the best you can to help people out and do what you need to and serve the powers that be. Khari, how are you doing?
You know what? I'm doing all right. I'm trying to imbibe this love and happiness that everybody in Boston feels for this Celtics team that's about to win a championship. So that's been fun. A lot more fun than like not sleeping and just generally being tired all the time, that's just life. But otherwise, I can't complain. I'm doing all right. Good to see y'all. It's been a minute.
It really has been. So, we do have a couple of talking points we should go over here before we get going into our impact draft that we're going to do. So, a couple of things that I pulled from the last week, 2 weeks that might be semi-interesting. First one, Caleb in his outro from mandatory minicamp talked about how the wide receivers are going to be going to somewhere, California, Florida, also inviting defenders. You don't hear that too often. I know this is at times pomp and circumstance. You hear this all the time. Whenever I hear about a quarterback and receivers getting together, I think of Mark Sanchez and the Jets, and they had special shirts made. We're going to wherever the heck they were at. Danny, does it matter at all? Or should we get excited by something like that? Or is it pretty much par for the course and you have to do this?
Can it be a mixture of both? Like, yeah. I'm sure I feel like it's a lot more to say you did it than it is meaningful, because anyone in shorts and t-shirts with their special cleats that they're never going to wear in game for the turf they're on is going to look great, right? Now you're going to learn mannerisms, footwork technique, and stuff specifically for a guy like Keenan Allen and whatnot. But until the pads go on and you're doing this full contact, like, there's going to be hiccups in timing. There's going to be mess ups and rhythm and everything. And Caleb's going to have to relearn what open is. That's the biggest issue with any NFL quarterback, having to recalibrate what is open and what is not open, right? So do I think it's a nice story? Yes. Do I think it actually matters a ton? Not really, no. Other than the guys get to go out for beers after playing on the local high school football field. Like,
hey, Caleb said no cheat days. I don't think he's getting any beers anytime soon.
Yeah, that's bad nutritional advice there, Danny. God.
Oh, God.
What about you, Khari?
Yeah, don't. I'm not following nutritional advice today.
Does this matter?
I actually forgot my drink upstairs. Now that I think about it, I really messed up. I mean, look, I think it's cool. I think that when it comes to, like, you should be doing that. I think that especially if you're a new quarterback, you should be doing everything you can to gain connection with your wide receivers. And I think, get chemistry with the rest of your team, especially I think in Caleb Williams' case. I'm sure that they didn't really buy that much into the narratives of, oh yeah, this guy's not a team player and he's only about himself. And so they were probably just going to always judge it by the way that, they perceived him in person. And I think it's all about making a good impression here. And Caleb clearly he understands the assignment. He knows what he's got to do. He knows he's got to be one of the guys. He's a rookie, but he's going to be the franchise quarterback. So it's all about making good on, your first impressions and then building on it from there. So he's doing the right stuff. He's doing what he should be doing.
At least he's in JJ McCarthy, potentially, as we've heard whispers, trying to get certain guarantees going. So, Caleb is not currently doing that. So that's the big thing. So, Khari, Bears head coach Matt Eberflus said that rookie wide receiver Rome Odunze has been learning multiple positions in their offense. Keenan Allen said he's playing the Z in 2 receiver sets and the slot in 3 receiver sets. So, Odunze may be learning to back up all 3 spots. What are your thoughts on that? Especially a rookie learning 3 spots across the board instead of focusing on 1, as most rookies do.
Number 1, I think that this is going to be a product of playing behind 2 really good receivers and having to find a role somehow. If you're going to get on the field, you got to be able to do multiple things. You got to be able to line up multiple places. We have to figure out that, we have to be able to use you in whatever way works behind those 2 other guys. Number 2, when Keenan Allen goes and signs elsewhere in free agency next year because the Bears don't re-sign him, it will have benefited Rome Odunze a lot to have learned all of those positions, know what he's doing in multiple spots in this offense, and be ready to hit the ground running in year 2 when he is the number 2 wide receiver behind DJ Moore, who eventually gets contract extension.
Danny, so I'm going to give you a 2-pronged question based off what Khari just said there, because NFL Network's Tom Pelissero reported that Bears wide receiver Keenan Allen switched agencies and is now represented by Clutch Sports. So my 2 questions are, A, how will this impact his potential to remain in Chicago beyond 2024? And B, let's say you do decide to extend a DJ Moore. We just had Justin Jefferson get a monster 35 APY deal. What are you paying DJ Moore per year?
I think DJ is going to be probably coming up on that 27, 28 area. If he continues to produce, especially like he did last year. Now, I think it'd be a fair assumption to think he's going to maybe step back in terms of volume numbers while keeping the same efficiency, if not better, because there's going to be less attraction on him to coverage, because it's like, oh, well, Justin's going to throw to one person. We know who he's going to throw to. Just, make sure we slow him down. But I'm of a different opinion. I would actually be kind of shocked if this is a one and done for Keenan Allen. Honestly, I know it was a weaker draft, quote unquote. But you traded a 4th round pick for a guy who's going to who is close with the new number 1 pick and the quarterback of the future. I just would feel a certain kind of way if they I think rather Caleb would feel a certain kind of way if you got his friend and then immediately just said, all right, see you later, buddy. And obviously you have to learn it's a business. Caleb probably knows better than most rookies that it's a business, but I just don't see them trading that kind of pick for that kind of player. And also let's factor this in. Keenan Allen's like my age and Kyrie's age. Is he really going to want to go somewhere else after building a rapport with another wide receiver or another quarterback to a situation unknown for the biggest bag? Or is he going to maybe settle after having been paid a lot of money already throughout the course of his career to stay with a situation he knows maybe on the up and up, if not ready to compete next year? There's a plethora of things to consider here. I don't think it's necessarily he's gone. I would actually probably lean the other way, that I think he's going to get some sort of new 2 or 3 year deal.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see. If there's anything I've learned as I've lucked out and gotten to work with some pro athletes over the last couple of years is motivations are so different for each individual player. I mean, we as fans a lot of times are like, yeah, the championship, because that's what we focus on, right? And it's amazing how many are like, I'm not saying this is Keenan Allen, by the way. No one quote tweet me on this and tell me say that I said something bad about him. But for all we know, there are players out there I'm about that bag. I could care less about a championship. If it happens to come, great. But I just need to make sure that myself, my family, that we're going to have food on the table and Lamborghinis in the garage. And that's just how some guys roll.
Yeah, and I think, by the way, I said that all definitively. It's not like I know what Keenan Allen is going to do. I haven't talked.
Kyrie, you put your name on it.
Yeah, I did. But yeah. So I mean, it's like I think that it's probably more likely, especially when you see the kinds of money that the wide receivers are getting, even wide receivers that aren't your kind of number one, like true number ones. Yeah, Keenan Allen's not going to get $30 million a year. Like I'm not over here saying that. But if a team like, a contender, which we'll see what the Bears are, we will see what the Bears are at the end of this year. Maybe they fit in that. You never know. I think that there, could well be a contender out there that says, hey, you know what? If Keenan Allen's still healthy and he's still putting up numbers, we could use him next to, our other receivers. I feel like the Rome Odunze. I mean, look, Rome just made sense at number 9, no matter what your receiving core was. And so, like, I don't think it was necessarily like, oh, yeah, he's definitely gone, meaning Keenan Allen. But I think that the reality of what the Bears are and what they do more often than not suggests that Keenan Allen probably isn't going to be here, at least in my mind. Whereas DJ Moore, 27 years old, going to be 28, next year, still young-ish, still going to be in his prime, and ready to put up 2 to 3 more really big seasons potentially with the Chicago Bears, if not more. And then you let Rome Odunze, if he is really up to snuff, let him take off as the number 2, let him have that, and then you can invest that money elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing, a couple of the newer deals that have come across this last summer, this offseason, even Jalen Waddle, right, 28.25 per year. He's making about $2 million less than his teammate Tyreek Hill. We saw Nico Collins get money, 24.25 at the age of 25. You got Devontae Adams. I mean, this wasn't a new deal, but just as a barometer of kind of where things were at a couple years ago, so keep that in mind. But he got 28 per year at the, now he's now 32. So if any Bears fans are expecting more to be on the lower end of in that 20 range, you're probably dreaming, just because of how consistent he has been, and also just the going rate for a number 1 receiver, even if certain quarterback analysts don't think he is one. Last bit of news before we get into our draft: former Chargers and Raiders wide receiver, special teams ace DeAndre Carter is signed with the Bears. Played for the Bears in 2020 for 4 games before going to Houston, I believe, to finish out the season. More speed for Caleb Williams in Chicago, and with the NFL's new kickoff return rule in play, I tweeted out that goodbye Dante Pettis, Danny's favorite wide receiver.
Oh, yeah, favorite.
Is that the case, or is it just, hey, we need a body at this point in time?
Can I throw up my who cares sign?
Essentially, I mean, I only care because right now he'd be my front runner for punt returner, I guess.
Yeah, but who cares? Like, great. You could throw Rome Odunze back there to punt, because like Kyrie said, he's got to find his ways on the field, right? I wouldn't do it, but you could.
Oh, I would absolutely do it.
Like, I don't know. He's a 30. I think he's going to be 31 this year. Like, whatever. He's a punt returner. I feel like it's going to be a lot like Trent Taylor was last year. He's probably not any good at it anymore. Whatever. Just don't fumble the ball and go forward a few yards. I'm not asking you to be Devin Hester.
Thoughts, Harry?
Yeah, I think largely that's it. He's better than Dante Pettis, but that's a low bar.
Step over this bar, please, friend.
So I think that if you were gonna make me pick, gun to my head, what am I picking between DeAndre Carter and Dante Pettis? I'm taking DeAndre Carter. I think he's been a bit more productive as a wide receiver, but that's not really what they're going to be asking him to do so much, I would think. That said, look, I think we have a tendency sometimes to, dismiss kind of like the back end of the roster guys, the special teamers. He's a punt returner. That doesn't really mean anything, that kind of thing. It matters to football teams, because if you, muff a punt, then, obviously, like if you got a punt returner that, straight can't catch the ball, that sucks. If you have a punt returner that like Trent Taylor that literally adds nothing, like no value to you whatsoever, because he catches the ball most of the time, but doesn't actually get any return yards out of it when there are giant holes. That's something that teams are going to look to improve. And also, he did have a season where he had better than 500 yards receiving when he was playing with Justin Herbert. So it's not like he's completely useless.
No, I think I shouldn't have been as harsh. I don't think if he was that good a punt returner, would he have still been hanging around? Like that's my question. Like the kid from Howard, the kid from Howard, I'd be more interested in returning punts. Truthfully.
I agree. Ian Wheeler is who he's talking about. Great guy, super smart dude, and definitely a weapon in the return game. At least he was in college. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to get into this draft. All right, Bears fans, we are going to be doing a 3-year impact draft. Danny, why don't you talk through what this is, as it was your idea?
Okay, so the basic premise of it is like you're picking players not for exactly what they're going to do only this year, but you're factoring in their contract, their positional value, etc., based on a 3-year block. How valuable are they going to be to the Bears, and what is the likelihood that they're still going to be a Bear in the, what would that be? We're heading into the 24 season, so to the 24, 25, 26 season, into the 27 off season. So what does that look like? Right. So, and basically we're going to each pick players. I think we're doing 5 rounds, correct, Mason?
5 rounds.
And we're going to basically stack a roster of 5 players per panelist to see what our teams look like and how we value the young players on this roster, or how do we value this roster? Does someone like Keenan Allen get drafted? You never know. That's why we play the game. It's where to quote, whose line is it anyway? The game's all made up and the points don't matter. But, here we go.
All right. So, Khari, give me number 1 through 10.
4.
1, 2, 3, 4. Danny, same thing.
9.
I hate you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. For those who are listening on the podcast, I'm using this website, 100yardrush.com. It's just a stupid site that lets you see little football guys run across the screen, and we'll decide our draft order that we're going to use for today. Should I give a higher luck value?
What is happening right now?
Yeah, watch. I use this all the time for when I'm starting leagues and stuff.
What in the world is happening right now?
This is great. So yards traveled per rush. We're not going to adjust any of that. Whatever. You can do all these stupid settings. We're not doing any of it. We're going to do normal speed so we can watch these stupid men run across the screen. Each person's labeled Mason, Khari, Danny. Start the rush. Good luck. Danny's at the top of the screen. I'm in the middle, and Khari's at the bottom after our randomization. Whee! Isn't this fun for all those people watching at home? Because look at this.
This feels racist and rigged.
I mean, if we're going to be honest, like what's happening right now makes a lot of sense.
Made the white guy the lowest.
I was mainly talking about the fact that I'm dusting everybody out of the blocks, and then I'm starting to get caught. Actually, this is very indicative.
You got a really good 10 to 20 yard split, but your 100's not quite there.
That it's interesting because when I was in track, I would be smoking people out of the blocks. It'd be crazy, but my running form was terrible. So yeah, I hated the 100-yard dash, but actually once you got me in the 200, because I loved running the curves, I slingshot myself off that thing, and it's like, oh yeah, we're moving now. But no, just running in a straight line for 100 yards, I hated it. I hated it.
With about 30 yards to go, Danny has caught up, and I have fallen woefully behind. Khari and Danny going down to a photo finish here.
Okay, I really need to hit. I need to hit a true to form. Oh no, here comes Mason. Yes, let's go. No, this is really pissing me off right now. No, I'm gonna catch Danny at the line. No, Danny won.
Get wrecked, nerds.
Danny finishes first. Khari cannot finish the last 3 yards. There it goes. Kyrie gonna get second, and I will finish in third. That'll be our draft order.
This is a snake draft, not a fixed draft. It's not going 1, 2, 3, then back to the top. We are then flipping order to try to even the playing field here a little bit.
Exactly. And if anyone ever doesn't do snake draft, you're doing it wrong. That's just how it should be.
All right.
So I guess we have Danny is going to be over first. If I can move your stupid name. There we go. I'm going to go way at the end.
Why does my name got to be stupid, though?
Because it wasn't moving like I wanted it to. So here's the thing, too. So for some reason, I like...
What a dumb name, Danny.
Stupid name, Danny.
Calls their kids that, Danny.
All right, Danny. Well, you and your stupid name. Knowing that you're going first, why don't you start us off? Who are you going to take number 1 overall, and why is it Tory Taylor?
Well, it's Tory Taylor because you can't have a better nickname than the Crocodile Punter. Just keep him away from stingrays or manta rays, I guess. I mean, it's the best we can do. But in all reality, I think the only answer here is Caleb Williams, right? That's the answer. So we're going to go with him. I don't even think this warrants that much discussion. He's been grouped into the same conversation as a quarterback prospect coming in, as guys like Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, Eli Manning coming out was also in this grouping of just quarterbacks you had to take because, yes, this is the only right answer. That's pretty much it. He's probably the most likely to be on this roster in 3 years from now of any of the players on the team. And he should theoretically, even if he only reaches 75% of his total outcome, you're talking about still one of probably the 12 best quarterbacks in the league just because of his physical gifts. So, yeah, the answer is Caleb Williams for me.
No arguments for me here. Makes total sense. I mean, if you were just going to pick a person that was going to be here in 3 years, I mean, it's going to be the quarterback you just drafted this year. So, yep. And who is the more impactful than the person that touches the ball the most? Anything to add, Khari?
One thing to add that is slightly off. So if you're familiar with the Twitter guy Ricky, who occasionally breaks news related to the NFL, he just dropped something that said that the Jaguars have finalized an extension with Trevor Lawrence, but hearing it will not surpass the Joe Burrow deal. So keep an eye on that. That is obviously not a finalized report, but I find that interesting, and I would love to see what his number is going to be. As far as the bear that I'm going to pick, I do think that there's another bear that's very likely, a non-rookie bear that's very likely to be here in 3 years' time, and that would be DJ Moore. That is what I'm going to go with because I believe he's going to get extended. He is quite possibly the best player on your team as of right now, like the actual best football player on your team. And he's going to be the number 1 receiver for this team for the foreseeable future. He is going to, at least what on paper, he's going to be the most important target for Caleb Williams, though I think that eventually Rome Odunze will get there. And look, especially if you're assuming that DJ Moore is going to get a contract extension, you're talking about, $20 million a year, kind of in that scenario. He's going to get paid like one of the best players in the league because last year I think that he showed that he's up there at his position.
Q asked a great question that Khari touched on a little bit there. Are you guys taking contract in consideration, i.e.
Yes.
DJ Moore only has 2 years locked in? Yes, we are. Danny touched on that a little bit at the beginning as well. I think we all agree with this, that's very important for this because there are certain players, DJ Moore is a perfect example of that, where technically, if for some reason they didn't extend him, Khari's clout in this category would go down, right? Because he doesn't have DJ Moore in that 3rd year. Danny mentioned Keenan Allen. If he doesn't get extended and you draft Keenan Allen, you are looking up a tough hill there because now all of a sudden you have someone that was only there for 1 of the 3 years. So yeah, absolutely, contracts are important here. Also in terms of the cost of it as well. What we've seen from that player in terms of their cap hit and how impactful that's been. All right, so I get to go, and I'm lucky enough. I'm actually kind of excited I got last place because I think this double dip is going to be great. Also, I got to fix this number 5. And
also a note, Mason, before you select.
Go ahead.
We did this same exercise last year. You'd be shocked how quick the cupboard goes empty in terms of your thought process. It's like, oh, shit. I like him, but I don't know if he's going to be here in 3 seasons.
That's why I'm taking Mercedes Lewis. So actually, what I'm going to do, I'm lucky enough where I get to double tip here. So it really doesn't matter who I take at 3 and who I take at 4, but just to not piss people off, I also want to make it logical in terms of who I'm taking where. Danny has said in recent podcasts that if this player was to get hurt, that you are in trouble for this year and arguably next year and so on and so forth. There is only a handful of players, I believe it's like 6 or 7 by my count, that are going to be they're under contract through 2027 even. One of them is Montez Sweat. If Montez Sweat gets hurt, as Danny has said before, your D-line is in trouble. Your offense is in trouble. We saw the Sweat effect last year, how it unlocks, and all of a sudden turnover started happening. Yes, the quarterbacks you played weren't great. The teams you played weren't great. All that jazz. That all needs to be taken into consideration. But with what Montez Sweat did last year, and how much he is going to count against your cap, he has to be impactful, and he was, right? He has to be, and I think will be a very impactful player for the foreseeable future.
No disagreement there. I think he's one of the 3 most important Bears on the team.
Cool. I get to go again, and now I get to do, not that Montez isn't fun. I know, obviously, Mr. Sweat, you listen to our podcast. I'm not saying that to you, but a little bit more of a fun pick for me. I get to do a pick that's a little, I don't know if safer is the right word than DJ Moore, but like slightly less known. I'm going to go with Rome Odunze, right? Because we, again, know he's going to be here in the next 3 years. If Keenan Allen does not re-sign, he's going to be at least your number 2, potentially your number 1. Let's say in 3 years, if DJ Moore's play starts to diminish a bit, you have Rome to step up. We've already seen a lot of chemistry between Caleb and Rome. That stuff matters. Friendships matter. All that stuff comes into play. He was your top pick. It's your second pick in the first round this year. I don't think there's a lot of argument against Rome Odunze in this slot unless you guys can come up with one.
No, I mean, I can see an argument for other players, but they're not enough to like debate you on it.
Also, the price, right? I mean, you're paying.
Yeah, he's cheap.
You are take let's compare and contrast. For example, either we can take Marvin Harrison Jr. or we can take why is my brain farting? Who did the Giants draft? Oh my God, Malik Neighbors. Jeez, Malik Neighbors. You are paying them to be your number 1 receiver. You're paying more or less the same, slightly less because of the whole how that works. Rome Odunze to be your 3rd receiver. So the bang for your buck you're getting as wide receiver 3, that's also big in my opinion on this. Khari, who do you have at pick 5?
Another cheap young player who plays a premium position. That would be Darnell Wright.
I hate you.
So
damn it.
In theory, right, you would think to yourself, oh yeah, I'll go with the left tackle. Darnell Wright plays on the right side. Well, I'm just not. I think that Darnell Wright is going to be better than Braxton Jones when it's all said and done. We also don't know what Braxton Jones' future is necessarily. He might be a guy that you could sign for a discounted deal compared to what you would have to pay one of the best tackles in the game. But even average tackle play will get you paid. So I'm not 100% sure that's a guarantee. And I think that they've got options that they could potentially explore at left tackle. But I think Darnell Wright, again, we know he's going to be here. He had a strong rookie year. I think he's going to get even better. And when you have so far the theme is here, I've got DJ Moore and I've got Darnell Wright. 2 extremely important positions for helping your young quarterback. Arguably 2 of the 2 most important positions for helping your young quarterback. So I think that Darnell Wright showed last year that, especially when healthy, he's a foundational piece of this offense. He is going to be here for at least the next 3 years, you would think, unless he is like a terrible person or whatever, and you just like cannot have him on your team. You got to trade him for that reason.
And even when he wasn't healthy, he was still impactful. I mean, there were games where he was playing with a bum left shoulder hanging by his side, and he was still stonewalling guys. So I mean, Darnell Wright is a dude.
He can play.
I know, Danny, you were upset with this pick by Khari. Why?
It's so my thought process was coming in here with positional value. He's clear cut, far and away the best offensive lineman, most valuable offensive lineman they have. I don't care what you think about the guy in the bookend. I don't think they're sold on him past this year. I would not be shocked if things rolled a certain way and in the first round they're drafting his replacement in the teens next year. That's just my personal feeling. I think Braxton is serviceable. I think he's fine. But I just don't think he's near as valuable as Darnell is. Just my personal opinion.
Yeah, they went out and they drafted Karan Amagachi, right? I mean, right now they're hoping for him to be a swing tackle. And
I'm a big fan of him, actually.
He's got all the tools you want. The biggest knock against him is competition and time on task. He hasn't played all that long, but it does show a little something, the fact that you're willing to go and spend one of the few picks you had this year on potentially a left tackle replacement. So, Braxton's got to show out and also be healthy. He has had his own issues. Danny, who do you have at pick 6?
So we're going to go to the strongest positional group outside of the receiving core on this team, and we're probably going to double dip here. I'm going to select Jalen Johnson with the 6th pick.
You suck. I was hoping
I do. I think he is. So this was my struggle with where I said I was going to double dip. Corner play in the NFL is a lot like relievers in baseball, where they can be the best at their job. Shout out to Hector Neris. 1 year and then fall off the cliff the very next year. There's no rhyme or reason. It's just a very hard position to withstand and be amazing year over year. A guy like Nnamdi Asomugha historically comes to mind, where he was a lockdown corner for 3 years in Oakland. He got to Philadelphia and magically forgot how to play football. Now, that's not entirely his fault. They took a man cover corner and they said, "Hey, dude, go play zone." And he's like, "I don't know how." So, but Jalen Johnson, I think quite literally was PFF's #1 graded corner last year. I've always been a Jalen Johnson fan, even going back to when A.J. Brown took his lunch from him a couple seasons ago. And I was like, I don't know, man. He looked like he was playing his ass off to me. He just happened to go against one of those guys. So I was always team pay Jalen Johnson. So I'll take him with a 6th pick, and I will go right back to his nickelback mate in Kyler Gordon and take him 7 overall, because I am a huge fan. Loved him coming out of Washington. I think the nickel position is more important than anyone wants to give it credit for in this NFL, because everyone's running 3 wide receiver sets all the time.
It's basically base now.
It is. And Kyler's good at it. And we saw what Kenny Moore did for Indianapolis and what that could mean for an Eberflus-led defense. So I would just say, yeah, to me, he is one of the 8 to 10 most important Bears. I just went to the positional group I thought was most stacked. And I was like, well, who's important here and who's under cost control? Jalen's extended. Kyler doesn't need money for another couple years. So, yeah. And because he's a nickel, his value is going to be depressed. So he's not going to be a detriment to your cap hit. Another thing worth factoring in.
Yeah, I like how you just said, you got kind of expensive and cheap. Same position, but 2 very important ones, and combine that together. That was awesome. Khari, who do you have at pick 8?
I think there's, based on what we just did, there's only one direction that I can go with this. It's got to be Velus Jones Jr.
All right, you said it. I'm running it in.
I'm just kidding. It's Dominique Robinson. No, I'm just kidding again. Gervon Dexter Sr. I think that
and see, this is where it gets hard, because the good players are all gone.
Yeah, and I think that this is where, this is a little bit more of a reach, where, Danny, you've said, and I agree, as of right now, I don't know how you could kind of argue with it. If Montez Sweat were to get hurt, what else do you really have there? This is where you really need Gervon Dexter to be a guy, be a real stud in there. And we saw flashes of it. We saw glimpses of him just in the raw power that he has. I think that the get off was, kind of a thing, but I feel like we noticed it less and less as the year went on. I think as he got more reps at this level and got a little bit more, a little bit more coaching up. I think that the way that they have approached this roster, they're expecting big things from Dexter, and he better deliver. But again, it's like from a contractual perspective, right? He's going to be here. He's a second round pick, so obviously you don't have the first, the fifth year option. But I think that just as it stands right now, I mean, you had an opportunity if you really wanted to go with a 3 tech. You could have traded down and gotten a 3 technique or another big defensive lineman, and they chose not to do that in the draft. They chose not to make any big splash signings like that, in free agency either. So, I mean, they're saying he's important. So I want to see him play like he's important.
Yeah, I like this pick here, and I honestly thought about doing that on the turnaround here when I go, because like you said, we're looking at top impact players over the next 3 years, and as we know, the 3 tech is the motor of this defense. Gervon has not been it yet, but man, they're telling you that they believe that he's going, like you said, to take a step. And if you're going to have something be impactful, I mean, why? It's that position.
So the only thing I'll push back on, does it just to play devil's advocate, this is supposed to be a discussion, not, oh yeah, honky dory, we all like each other's picks. He was on a pitch count last year. He was really.
You want to fight? You want to fight?
I want to fight. I want to fight. You know what? You're 5'2" on a shoebox. All right, get off me.
Damn.
I'm 5'5". Thank you. Okay, I will have everybody know that I am not 5'2". I'm 5'5", 5'6" on a good day. Pissing me off.
So he was on a pitch count. He was a situational player last year. The thing I worry about with him, and it's not necessarily his fault. He's a basketball player by nature, right? He grew up playing basketball. His pad level is a problem. Basketball is about being big and using your size to your advantage in terms of, I'm going to basically just be bigger than you, versus football is always low man wins, right? I'm not sure he's ever going to be able to consistently get the pad level thing down because of his innate nature. It's not what he was taught to do. Football isn't his first game. I'm just pushing back. I like Gervon, the theoretical player, because there aren't many people on this planet that can do what he does physically. It's then the enactment of, can he get himself to a point where he can get away from his nature of what he trained his body to do from the time he was probably 4 or 5 years old?
I mean,
and that's the question I don't know.
The day before this man's wedding, you gonna put him on blast like that?
There are times in basketball where having a low center of gravity also works. I mean,
there are times. Sure.
I get what you're saying though. It's really part of it is just work, like literally physical repping and drilling. Mm-hmm. You have to reprogram your brain. Not everybody can do that. I will say it. Not everyone can make their shot form change, in basketball and have it be consistently. Not everyone can change the way that they, the way that they run or walk, necessarily just through sheer will and up in practice reps. But I mean, I think that, this is going to be his second year in the NFL, mm-hmm. and he is going to have had a full NFL offseason with which to work. And I, being out here in Boston and, seeing like Lawrence Guy, right? A guy that you don't really think about that much in terms of like the great, interior defensive lineman, in the game, but he's well respected because of the way that he goes about his craft and the way that he does a lot of things fundamentally with hand placement and like both like literally like the way you place your hand in the dirt, the way that you put them on other people's pads, the way that you come out of your stance. Like he's been mentoring guys for a really long time. It's stuff that you can teach. And if you have the right veterans and kind of the right players around you, and the right coaches around you, you can learn that stuff. I think that what you said though is going to be something to watch, right? So
right. And I'm not saying I disagree with the pick for the record. I was just bringing up a point of talking. That's all.
Yeah, and I think that this second year will be really big to see, can you start to reprogram your brain? Like, can we see that more consistently? So from that standpoint, like, yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing with you on that one.
Yeah, it's hard because, I mean, not to get too technical, but general motor programming is a thing. When you teach your body how to do something, it is so hard to overcome how you've taught yourself to do it forever.
Yeah, like I cannot throw left-handed. Can't do it. It's wrong. It is fundamentally impossible for me to look good throwing the ball with my left hand, even if I practice it a lot. And I have. It's hard to just make yourself do something that you hadn't done for 20, 30 years of your life. And so this is going to be like that's part of what separates these guys as athletes. Like, can you be that special? Right? Can you learn? And I think he's a big year for proving that.
And that being said, I think he's wired right for it. He clearly wants to be amazing. I think he's really about the work and wanting to be great. So time will tell.
All right. I am back up, and this is tough for what Danny said, because now obviously there's a fall off in talent. There's a fall off in availability. There's also, I'm trying to think of who the hell you two are going to pick so I can potentially have my last person at my final pick. Okay. I am going to go with Tevin Jenkins.
Really?
Yes. I'm going to go with because, and this is why. I'm going to take Tevin because I think when healthy, he is one of the best guards in the game. I think top 5 guard. That knowing the injuries he's had, people like to just obviously throw the moniker on him that he's injury prone and all that. But understanding the biomechanics going into what he's had, that some of those are just unlucky and non-related things and poor management by the Bears. And that the Bears continue to give me question marks at a position like center. Apparently now it's a competition between Ryan Bates and Coleman Shelton, even though it was supposed to be Ryan Bates's job. So when you have a question mark there, when you have a question mark with Nate Davis, who still just can't be there, and if he is there, he's not practicing, I would not be surprised that if Tevin Jenkins gets an extension, now to play devil's advocate to my, and no, actually not even, this is going to support what I want to say. This last summer, we saw a big boom in terms of contract value for the guards, right? Robert Hunt got 20 mil AAV from the Panthers. They doubled down also and gave Damian Lewis 13 mil. Mike Onwenu got 19 from the Patriots. Jonah Jackson got 17 from the Rams. So, I mean, you're giving some decent money to guards now. I think because of Tevin's injury history, though, you can get him for a little cheaper than what his talent gives. Yeah, so I can foresee them bringing him back on a pretty team-friendly deal and being an important piece in the middle.
So my pushback is we saw the guard market explode financially this offseason. Do you think they're going to pay him $100 million over 5 years?
That's the thing. Like I just said, I don't think that he's getting that. I think that he's smart enough to know in the open market he isn't getting the Robert Hunt deal.
You don't think so? See, I think his agent would tell him the exact opposite.
I mean, his agent can tell him that he's the princess of France, and that doesn't mean it's true.
Called this man a princess.
Like, it's just, I think agents are pretty tied into what's going on. And yes, sometimes we see certain position groups get inflated and guys who don't deserve certain money or maybe should get something else get higher AAV because of just the positional boom and what's going on. But I just think with his history, teams won't necessarily shell out like
I feel you
did for some of these guys.
I do. I feel you. I honestly didn't even expect him to go in this draft.
And I almost didn't put him here, but he's
one of the best football players on the team. There's no doubt about it.
And I think something special also happened between him and Poles. Like there was that weird, funky disagreement that happened when Poles first got here and lack of communication. But a lot of times out of adversity, bonds are formed. And we've seen that how Poles operates. We saw that how he talked about Justin Fields and some other players, how he cares about these players, and I think he sees the value of Tevin Jenkins and what he can give. And again, a lot of this is what the uncertainty. Like, let's say you don't bring Tevin back. What the heck are you? I don't trust the center. I don't think Nate Davis is back here. He's number 53 on my top impact Chicago Bears draft, if anything. So are you really going to go into next offseason needing 2 guards?
Well, Ryan Bates is here, friend.
Needing 2 good guards?
Who says you need 2 good guards?
Khari, do you have any pushback here, or am I on an island here?
I mean, well, guard is one of those positions that it's great to have 2 really good / elite ones if you can, but it's the kind of position that like guys like Bill Belichick have been finding like B value at for a really long time. You kind of got to know what positions you can get away with that at. Now, I will say that I don't know that I don't want the Bears to do that. I think offensive guard is pretty important. But if you can find a 5th round pick that can play and start, I think you can do that. You can do that.
I think you can do that, but I think you can do that at right guard when you need to replace Nate Davis and not.
And that's fair to me.
Like, you know, like that's where I'm at. Like, I mean, you have a lot of capital next year, and all that's true. We just saw the Steelers. I mean, they just revamped their whole offensive line in this last draft, and they're getting lauded for it.
And extended
Trevor Lawrence's deal is in, by the way. Take a guess. Watch your guesses.
Oh my God.
49 a year. But can he hit
first? Let me see.
49 a year for 5 years.
5 years.
Like,
I'm gonna say 5 years at 52.
Hold on. Why am I?
Can you math, please, Khari? Jeez.
You said 52?
Yeah. God, get out of here. What do you get? What?
5 years, 275 million.
Oh my God.
So
200 million guaranteed, 142 million at signing.
So what is that? 55 a year?
55.
Yeah, 55. God, I was thinking maybe he because of his performance while injured down the stretch last year, but I guess it's also Jacksonville, so you got to factor that in.
Yeah.
Look, I'm going to do my mini Trevor Lawrence soapbox. And I know both of you know my Trevor Lawrence soapbox, but for those listening, I understand why the Jaguars just did what they did, but whether it was Trevor's fault or not, you can blame Urban Meyer. You can blame the Balky, is that their stupid GM, for giving him not great players, but Trevor has not lived up to what he was supposed to be. And last year, with the injuries and all that jazz, that just added to it. I would not be comfortable as a Jaguars fan seeing that extension. I just wouldn't.
I just don't know what the answer is otherwise. I'm not comfortable if I'm a Lions fan with what they just gave Jared Goff, but you have to.
I get it.
You can get
I think
Yeah.
I think when it comes to Trevor Lawrence, I mean, I'm with you on. I'll try and make this quick. I'm with you on the Jared Goff thing as well. Jared Goff is a really good quarterback. He's not elite, but really good quarterbacking can help you get to the NFC Championship game, and then maybe you can get a little bit further, depending on what the rest of your team does. Trevor Lawrence, to me, he's his film can be really good. And yet I think that he's not elite. He's obviously not elite. I think that he is really good. Now, what I don't know,
before he got hurt this year, he was balling.
What I don't know is whether or not and so I think I want to say that his ceiling is still elite. And that's what you're paying for. So he hasn't lived up to that right now. I don't know that I think he can't do it, nor is it all entirely on him. And I feel like I do get that you pay quarterbacks to elevate the team. You don't pay the team you don't pay other players to elevate the quarterback, right? Like at some point your quarterback's got to be that dude. And I think he still is capable of doing it. I didn't necessarily view him as this, oh my God, greatest quarterback prospect of all time. That I think he was really getting talked up, but he was clean coming out. That was the thing. He was clean, and he was clean in an Andrew Luck-esque way without being quite Andrew Luck. I think to me, it's pretty clear that he's not Andrew Luck, at least right now.
I think
But
Trevor Lawrence.
I get why you pay him like he's eventually gonna be a top 5 quarterback, because I think he's still.
To kind of put a bow on this, the Trevor Lawrence thing is, I wish you could put some Jay Cutler in his brain, where you're just saying, F it. Like, he's a football robot. It's the same thing with Herbert, and it's the same thing with Matt Ryan when he was at the peak of his powers to an extent. The play says I need to do this, so I'm going to do this. There's just not a lot of creativity or deviation with that. And I think that hampers guys like him and Herbert from ascending to – and Herbert is elite. I'm not saying that, Lawrence is Herbert. I'm just saying that's what's keeping them from a next ascension in terms of what they can do.
I think they're going to be similar tier players. I think they are going to end up in a kind of a similar place. By the way, but yeah, I think the kind of robotic nature of it. Okay, I don't want to say any more on this because we got to get back to this snake draft. We got to get this done. But I think the last thing I'm going to say on this is, in a couple of years, in 3 years, 3 off seasons, you want Caleb Williams to be commanding this kind of money. That's what I'm
more than. Yeah, you're wanting him to reset the market.
You want him to be the first guy to $300 million.
The last point I'm throwing out here, and I understand that every year the number's going to go up because that's how the NFL is with a salary cap and all that jazz. I don't like living in a world where Joe Burrow makes $55 million, Justin Herbert makes $52.5 million, Lamar Jackson makes $52 million, Jalen Hurts makes $51 million, and Trevor Lawrence is making $55 million. That world, I hate that world. That world's stupid. I don't like it. All right. My next pick.
Do it. Do what I think you're going to do.
There's 2 players I'm hoping to snag. And I think this other one might make it to me at 15. So I'm going to, and just to keep the meme going, Tory Taylor, come on down. He is a full-time starter. As we've seen, he had some nerves and some bad punts early on in rookie.
He's a punter.
I don't care, because you can flip the field.
If he becomes an all-pro punter, then there it is. I don't know.
He still won't matter as much as Zach Pickens as a rotational pass rusher.
That's just not true in any way. That's insane that you're saying that.
I'm just here to stir the pot.
So I think if you have a situation where you can literally pin a team inside the 5,
bye, Kyrie.
If you can pin a team inside the 5 or even the 10 consistently, that is affecting the game momentously more than Zach Pickens as rotational 10-snap guy. Get out of here. With this new kickoff rule, if you have a guy that played Australian rules football who knows how to tackle, and you can leave him on the field to still be a good kicker, to be accurate with that kick, and can make a tackle, that's important. I mean, we heard that the Chiefs are experimenting with using their safety read to do kickoffs for the exact reason, because they don't want their kicker having to make a tackle with these new kickoff rules. So with all of that being said, I get it. He's a punter. And so whatever, special teams be stupid. You can say all that. But if you're going to look at the Ravens, I know a kicker and punter are 2 different things, but Justin Tucker is one of the more impactful, top 15 impactful players on that team because of how good he is and how consistent he has been over the years.
Man, it just so happens that we're talking about a punter. In person. That brother's different.
And I am hoping that Tory Taylor is different. He's not going to be singing opera probably like Justin Tucker can, but if you can truly flip the field with both power and accuracy, that can change games. And that's the point, is it not? If 2 punts helps you win a game, that's impact. 2 plays more than what Zach Pickens is doing in his 8 rotations.
I'm just here to stir the pot, just because I knew that was going to happen.
Oh, 100%. And I'm a walking meme. I understand it. And I'm going to lose.
We all are. I'm
going to lose the vote on this because of that pick, and I understand that too. But I truly believe that this dude is different. I just do.
Oh, you say that. Wait till you see my back-to-back. If this goes the way I think it could.
Look, I feel like we need to frame that right there. You go back and frame that photo where I'm just like,
I
Anyway,
offended
okay.
Kyrie on the most personal level with that statement.
I'm sorry, that mess was offensive. I'm gonna go with, and this is a name I would not have done this. I'm actually a little bit surprised that this is gonna happen, but I think that it's merited. Jaquan Brisker.
Really?
Yeah, because I think, and again, the issue with him a lot of times is health, but I think that healthy Jaquan Brisker is he's everywhere. He's everywhere.
I applaud you. I think Jaquan Brisker rules.
He tone sets.
Dude holds the record for most tackles in a game by a Bear.
He has all the attitude that I think the Chicago Bears want to embody with their defense, especially on the back end. And I think it's interesting to look at the way they're setting things up for him with, Kevin Byard as sort of like the, veteran mentor next to him. I mean, obviously he's had a chance to play alongside Eddie Jackson, but I'm curious to see what more there is to Brisker's game, because obviously he plays more like a box safety, a guy who's going to be closer to the line of scrimmage. But I'm curious to see what else there is to him. And they're already talking about, like, look, we used to do it a little bit more based off of alignment where it's like, you're free, I'm strong. But it's like, if we're just doing it off the side and we get to see, I don't know, can Jaquan Brisker range a little bit in coverage? We've seen he's got some ball skills.
Was that game back in college? It was like Penn State versus Wisconsin, and he just like read the Wisconsin quarterback like a book and intercepted it in the red zone. It was beautiful.
Game sealing pick. And so I think
that's Graham Mertz to you, Mr. Man.
I could have never put that.
So I think that he's a foundational player of this defense. And again, when you're talking about safeties, right? They're not necessarily the ones setting all the markets generally when it comes to when it comes to defensive back play, though. I think somebody like Kyle Hamilton is gonna change that here in a little bit. But safeties are valuable too, especially with how important tight ends are these days, and being able to match up on matchup problem tight ends and giant wide receivers. If Jaquan Brisker can provide that for you, as well as I'm going to come in and blow things up in the backfield from time to time, that's big.
When Jaquan is on, like when he set the record for most tackles in a game, that looks like Jets level Jamal Adams. Like that's a special.
He's even got that kind of physical profile. Even
I
feel
like the build. Even he looks like him a little bit in terms of how he's built.
Yeah,
I agree. Like the way he carries the pads, just like all of it. Like his frame.
Let's just not ask about his flat Earth stuff because he's weird. But
Danny, what is your double dip?
My double dip is, for as much as I give him shit, and I say that he has a love affair with the grass.
Yes, I got it right.
Colt Kmet is the next pick. He's newly extended. He is a jack of all trades, master of none tight end. He's not a great blocker. He's a fine blocker. He's not the best wide receiver. He's a fine wide receiver. He can do a lot of what you need to do. And I think you're probably going to see the best version of him when he's not being asked to do a whole lot in terms of efficiency within his reps under Shane Waldron, and under the fact that he's probably the fourth option in the passing game right now on the high end.
Yeah. I mean, I might put Swift there just because of checkdowns technically, but yeah.
And so that, I don't know if there's much debate, and I think he's just the best remaining football player that's attainable. Now, part of me wants to stick true to my brand with the 13th pick and pick a linebacker, and I just can't bring myself to do it.
Do it.
I can't.
But I assume you're going to do TJ Edwards. I mean, he's under contract through 2025. He's outperforming his contract.
I think I just don't. I don't see it. Not at this moment in time.
The brand.
He signed Actually, you
not
mentioned him, the 13th pick, DeAndre Swift.
Hey, I am surprised that a running back went in this at all, to be honest.
I think DeAndre Swift is one of the most underutilized or underappreciated, really good running backs in football.
I would agree.
I don't think he's spectacular by any stretch, but I think he's fast. I think he's a really good pass catcher. I think he gives you more between the tackles than give him credit for, because you picture him as a small scat back coming out of Georgia. But the Eagles were objectively better when he was touching the football. And then they decided it was Kenneth Gainwell time for some strange reason. I don't know if Kenneth Gainwell got blackmail on Sirianni, but the offense went backwards when Swift stopped getting touches. And Shane Waldron likes boomer bust type running backs, and Swift has that to him. And I understand if you look at his deal, it's more of a 2-year deal anyway. But DeAndre's 27 years old, I want to say.
He's not that old, yeah.
Yeah, like I could see him being here through the duration of that deal, maybe even extended on a reasonable thing. If things
25.
go, he's 25. So that's right. He was a kid coming out of Georgia. He was a football infant. So you factor all that in, along with the ability and what the Shane Waldron likes running backs, and they paid him. Like, I could see him being a really important piece of this offense and being here for longer than the duration of this contract, where maybe he even gets an extension. And I know he's a running back, and running back lives don't matter, and this, that, the other. Like, at a certain point, his skill set in today's NFL really matters. So that's why I went with him there.
I mean, to your point, so I just pulled up some of his attempts last season with the Eagles. You know, week 2 he had 28, week 3 he had 16, week 4 he had 14, week 5 he had 17. Then there's a stretch of games. Week 12 he had 6, week 13 he had 11, like week 16 he had 13. I don't understand what happened there. It made no sense. And like you said, there's a reason why they paid him what they paid him, and why he was the first signing by the Bears when, free agency opened up.
Speaks volumes.
Khari, who is your final pick of this top impact Bears draft? Don't take my guy.
I'm really debating whether or not I want to press this button.
Do it.
Press the button. Press the button. Don't be a coward. Press the button.
You know what? I will. Khari Santos.
Whoa. We've had both specialists go off the board.
Let's go.
All right.
Because look, my other thought was going to be Tyreek Stevenson, and obviously I think that as a young cornerback who, second round pick, definitely showed some promise last year. 100% is somebody that deserves to be talked about. And maybe I just gave Mason his last pick. Who knows? The reason I go with Santos is the same way, in somewhat of a different way that Mason went with Torrey Taylor, which is Khari Santos scores points, and he's 32. He's slated to be on this team until 2027. He has been automatic on anything inside 40 yards. And when it comes to, again, so much of this is about supporting Caleb Williams. When you know that your kicker, just get it inside the 30, and you're gonna get points on the board. Okay, don't try too hard. Don't hero ball this. Don't try to do anything crazy. Just take what's there, and this guy is going to come in and he is going to have your back, and he's going to hit this kick. Well, that's going to be wildly impactful. And again, you think about what some of the wins that Khari Santos might be able to get Caleb Williams early in his career. Like some of early on, say, in his first couple of games, right? Caleb Williams is down there, driving, and just get it into position. And then you can give Caleb Williams that confidence of saying, yo, we got a comeback win. We had a game-winning drive. I feel like that stuff is going to matter. And look, in the end, like when you're competing for a championship, or you're competing for the playoffs, every single point matters. And the dude has just been nails. So as much as I would love to go with, and as much as it totally makes sense to go with, a young cornerback who's ostensibly going to get better, Cairo Santos still got a lot of tread on those tires, you would think, and he's going to be here for a minute.
So to Kyrie's point, and I need to give you obligatory. He's a kicker. But
fine.
I also am old enough to remember the clown car cavalcade of kickers that used to come through here after Robbie Gould left town. And it was miserable. And you take that for granted. You really do. Like having
What do you think, and this might not go anywhere. Do you think Mitchell Trubisky's career could have been different if Cody Parkey doesn't double doink?
Yes.
I think yes, because I think he was mentally weak.
I think we saw from certain reports that came out that Mitch is very much a mental. He's driven by the mentality that he has at that time, and if he could have gone on, won that Eagles game, maybe won like another whatever. Like I still don't believe, because of how good that defense was, the Bears make the Super Bowl if they beat the Eagles. So I think so. It's a different trajectory.
But to kind of continue on my point, over the last 2 years, Cairo Santos has made 56 of 61 field goals attempted. That's 91.8%. He's an A student in terms of, if you want to just make it easy. When he comes out to kick, the overwhelming odds in his favor are that he's going to make the field goal. And that's even including 50 plus.
I wish he just had a little stronger leg.
But 50 plus his last 2 years, he's 11 of 13.
That's actually better than I thought it was, honestly.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, he's a legitimately good, probably close to all pro level kicker. You just don't think of him that way because we remember him coming up short on the long kicks earlier on in his career. Specifically the first time under John Fox when he was coming back from, I believe he had ripped his groin off the bone.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm not saying I would have done the same thing, Kyrie, but I can see the logic and it makes sense.
I'm not saying I agree with what you're doing, but you do it.
I mean, think about it this way, right? We're in the 5th round of this draft. So at that point, you can fudge that a little.
And you see how quick the talent deteriorates in terms of things you trust to be really good players.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. I'm going to wrap this up. So I'm going to really quickly just hit some of the people I'm not going to pick and why. Some of them we already talked about. Keenan Allen, I'm not even sure he's here after this next year. It's just not for sure. Braxton Jones, again, not really sure what his future is going to hold because of what we've seen them do in the draft and what his output has been. He's good, not great. The rest of the line, I refuse to talk about. Defense, you could talk about TJ Edwards here. I tried convincing Danny to switch his pick from DeAndre to TJ just because of, again, what that contract is and what he's been putting out. You could see an extension there. And
it's my brand.
And you could see that Tremaine Edmonds, man, if you could move off that contract, I think they would. And that impact is not felt. So the one I do want to, I'm not taking Tyreek Stevenson. The reason I'm not taking Tyreek Stevenson is, while I think he has a chance to ascend and be good, right now I can't pick the 3rd best corner who by PFF had a 60.2 overall, 59.1 in coverage, gave up 60% completion percentage, a passer rating of 93.7. There just wasn't enough there for me to make this pick right now, because I do think there's a player here based on what the Bears have done that I think can be in the next 3 years, not 2024, over the next 3 years, can be very impactful. And that's Austin Booker. Because right now, when you look at what else is there at defensive end, you're looking at Jacob Martin. You're looking at, maybe, I guess, you're like DeMarcus Walker. DeMarcus Walker's good, not great. They moved back up in the draft to get Austin Booker. They clearly like him. If he stayed one more year, most draft pundits are talking about Austin Booker being a 1st-round pick. And the Bears were able to get him with a pretty, honestly, cheap. Once you factor in a bunch of the trades that went in, it's like you didn't trade all that much for him. And so I think the pathway to him being a starter and an impactful starter is shorter than some people are currently giving credit for, even if they go out and they sign a Calais Campbell or they bring back, Yannick Ngakoue. And at the end of the day, again, like I will take someone that I think could potentially be the Bears' second edge or really starting edge over Tyreek, who would be the third best corner. Thoughts?
That's fair. And to kind of your point on Booker, we're at the point with the rest of the line that's not named Montez Sweat who can make a play.
Yeah.
Go make a play. It could be Dom Rob. Do I believe him to be on the team? No. But somebody go out there and hit somebody and make a play. That's really what it feels like. The defensive line is open tryouts right now. It's a sad state of affairs. Like, I know Khari mentioned it earlier, or it might have been you, Mason. Just if Sweat goes down, you're talking worst unit in football, unless someone steps up and develops. Like, it's bad outside of Montez Sweat, and Booker has a chance to make some noise.
Yeah.
All right. So just to wrap it up, Danny, who were your 5 picks?
In order: Caleb Williams, Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon, Cole Kmet, and DeAndre Swift.
Khari.
DJ Moore, Darnell Wright, Javon Dexter Sr., Jaquan Brisker, and Cairo Santos.
Again, Javon Dexter, he's going to get married tomorrow, so give him props. I had Montez Sweat, Rome Odunze, Tevin Jenkins, Torrey Taylor, Austin Booker. I have the old rookie team, really. All right. So this was fun. This was really cool. This was better than we did it before because there's actually some talent here. But I think you can see, as Danny pointed out, that, the team on paper has some other pieces that you're like, I feel fine about. For me, like examples, Braxton Jones falls into that category. Javon Dexter-ish falls in that category. Andrew Billings, he's good at his job. But, does he make a top impact list like this? No one. He does.
And he's old.
Kevin Byard, I feel pretty good about what he's going to bring to this defense in 2024, maybe even 2025, but he's older and at the end of the day, how long is he here? So it is really important to highlight, because good teams, players in that, let's say 7 to 14 range, for the sake of argument, are names that you're confident in are going to contribute in a big way. And so at least this year when we're doing this, I feel better about it.
I feel better. And I think it was also because I think I took Noah Sewell last year as just a flyer because of how bad the roster was going into the year. Maybe.
Khari, final thoughts.
I think this was an interesting exercise of, best players, right? Where, you have an opportunity to take, like, Jalen Johnson is one of the ones that's on my mind here, because I think he was one of my first thoughts, where he's obviously under contract. I wonder about his long-term health still.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder about the shoulder, and I think that was probably one of the things that deterred me ever so slightly from taking him. And also just Darnell Wright being on a rookie deal and playing, an offensive tackle and being involved with Caleb Williams. So it's like these little intricacies where, we got to push back, we could argue, we could do, kind of a variety of different ways of going about this. But when I look at all of our drafts, I feel like, given kind of what what the point of this is, I feel like there's a good case to be made for all of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think if I had to pick one that was my favorite, it might be Danny's, just because, they're known commodities for that one for sure. Not Caleb. Caleb's not known, but the other core.
I was gonna say, Mason. It's also it's a skewed rubric you're grading on for mine, just because Caleb, you're inherently just giving him the bump because of what everyone believes him to be.
Yeah,
that's why I almost threw into this when I submitted my outline to you. Like, do we just abstain from drafting Caleb altogether? Because we know, but you can't. Then the exercise is pointless, right? Because then you're not you're just not taking him. He's part of the team.
Yes. I mean, look, in a real draft. Yeah, I mean, look, in a real draft where, there's a prohibitive, favorite for number 1 overall pick, the guy's still the number 1 overall pick. He factors in. You have to do it. And I think, again, the fun thing for me is, and I mean, like, both of you had chances to double dip, and I was kind of cutting it down the middle.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, well, who do I want as who is the second most important, second best player on the team? And it's like thinking between DJ Moore and Montez Sweat. And then I think about, well, proximity to Caleb, literally, right? So there are a number of different ways that you can go about this.
And, it's one of those things, like, I almost appreciate what you did, though, Khari, just looking at it, because you swung for, like, the theoretical upside of Gervon Dexter. You swung on, I thought you were going Tyreek Stevenson at 11. Full disclosure. That's what I thought was going to happen. And you pulled the other backfield mate from
I pulled the better player,
All right, Bears fans, thanks for tuning in. Those who are listening on the podcast, come in live, 5 p.m. A lot of Thursdays, we have fun graphics and you can play along and ask questions. And usually we try to get to as many questions as we can when you do that. Obviously, we are entering kind of the doldrums of the NFL season right now, but some things to look forward to. I know Jeff Burks of Bear Balanced fame, he's going to be doing a Hard Knocks stream every single episode. After that happens, I might be co-hosting. I'm not 100% sure on that. It kind of depends on how that all works out. But so you got that to look forward to. We're still going to have episodes here and there. If we have cool ideas, if you have ideas, submit them. If you want us to do something, we will probably reject most of them because they're not as cool as our ideas, but we want to take them into account. But seriously, we do really appreciate you guys, everyone that's listening, everyone that's here. You guys make this show, you make this channel, Second City Gridiron, what it is. If you could, after I just gave you guys a huge pat in the back for your great ideas, obviously, share, all that stuff. It seems stupid, but if you're listening on Twitter, go to YouTube and give us a like, leave a comment, all that stuff. It really helps the algorithm. It helps us get in front of more Bears fans, and hopefully, when we're doing this in a couple years, because obviously this podcast will live on forever, we'll be talking about $60 million Caleb Williams. Bear the hell down, everyone.